And I believe you said something along the lines of, if it's just another iPhone, it's just another iPhone. And that's apparently what we got, I think. It's just another iPhone. I don't know, like, it's funny that, I've been watching reactions or watching and reading reactions to it, and it's been all over the place, from the ultra negative, neutral, and then the positive and all of that. My takeaway actually was a little bit different. Actually, like like how, I think how we've said before, a lot of Apple's product lines are just bloated with too many models. And what I thought was interesting with this announcement, they canned the iPhone SE and the iPhone 14 models, and all of a sudden, with the iPhone 15 being an outlier, it looks like a cleaner lineup. And I wonder if, you consider things like the iPhone 17 Air coming later in the year, rumors of a pretty big redesign of the Pro models, etc., that maybe this is like their first step into cleaning up the iPhone line a bit. That was my positive takeaway from it. That was what I sensed from it, before we get into the discussion of the model itself.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that. I interpreted it a bit differently, and I actually thought it was quite a clever or astute Apple sort of statement. I mean, what blew me away is it's the phone for me. It's the same factor, same size, with basically the same features, or all the features that I use, at an up-to-date A18 iPhone. And that's when but it's a whole lot cheaper. And that's when it dawned on me what Apple were doing. And basically, that's now the cutoff. So if you've got any model before that, you're basically being abandoned. So my iPhone 13 has still probably got another couple of years in it, but I won't have access to the Apple Intelligence or any of the future features. And that's why they've bought it out. They've said, all right, guys, we're cutting all of you loose before this model, but here's our gift to you, an up-to-date model at an affordable price. And I think that it really shows that Apple Intelligence now is the next step of Apple.
Yeah, I don't know if that's much of a selling point in its current state, but anyway, we can move along right from there. But I mean, what was curious for me, like, I could understand some of the negative reaction, in the sense that when it's not another iPhone SE, it's a new, it's more akin to a 16 than a iPhone SE model. But having said that, there are some really curious omissions in the tech specs for the iPhone, particularly around no MagSafe, which they have promoted since the iPhone 12. A lot of accessories depend on it now, and people who like to wirelessly charge, I'm not one of them. I like the old cable for me, but just some very odd things. So like the screen apparently isn't as good, although it's probably still good enough, really, and a couple of other odd features that were missing. But then at the same time, they've got these advancements, like you said. There's the A18 chip, there's the C1 modem, which I thought was really interesting. You can see that they're going to start potentially doing that across the line, with their own custom designed modems. So it's a little bit of an odd beast of a phone. But the other thing I could imagine seeing is that, this time next year we get an iPhone 17e and then an iPhone 18e. And that's where I was kind of thinking that maybe this is where they're trying to streamline the lineup a bit, so that instead of having, I think it was 9 models before it was announced that you could buy before you get into the storage tiers, and by canning some of the older models the way they did, maybe there's some potential for some cleanup and making the lineup make a bit more sense.
I think you're totally right, because let's face it, the SE models were always just old models, so you were going backwards. And I think, with Apple Intelligence now, you can't go backwards. And that's what Apple doesn't want. Apple wants you on their platform. Apple wants you using Apple Intelligence, which will become, I think we've spoken about this before, effectively your AI agent. It will be your window into the internet, finding you what you want to find in the way that you want it delivered. So I think, Apple's basically closing the door on the last 15 years of phone technology, and if we had a post-PC era, maybe this is the post-phone era. Well, we're moving into the AI era, and where phones will actually be an AI entry point into whatever you do. So I think that's what they're saying. And to your point, yeah, it cleans up the lineup. If they were to go every year to an E model, that means they'd always be introducing an updated entry-level spec phone without it being 4 or 5 years old technology, which is what we've seen with the SE models in the past. So it makes a lot of sense. I kind of like it because I'm not a heavy user of phones or socials. I kind of actually like what it offers, but I'm very old-fashioned.
Oh, well, the thing is that these phones are just so good now that a phone at that price point is going to do everything you really need it to do. And, you know, if it wasn't for the fact, like for myself, I'm really buying the cameras and for the edge cases, which is why I go for the Pro models. But if it wasn't for that, I probably, would be getting something like this anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where I think now what you'll see is this is the base platform for Apple moving forward, in the same way that the silicon range in the M chips is for the laptops. You wouldn't get away now with an Intel chip Mac. So it's all Apple intelligence from here on.
Absolutely. I did want to touch quickly on, obviously there's still some, refresh models coming up with new MacBook Airs, new low-cost iPad, and amongst other things. The only thing I wanted to mention that I thought would be interesting to circle back to that C1 modem of theirs. I'm just wondering if, as we see these products being announced in the next couple of months, if we start seeing it show up in some of these devices now. So like the low-cost iPad that's due for a refresh might be good for a tier with a C1 model in it, app modem in it. What about the MacBooks? Putting cellular connectivity into a MacBook like that to me, I mean, I don't know if I'd use that, but I can imagine that there could be a use case for that for some people.
I think there would be now. I mean, why hotspot? And this is the post-PC era, truly when effectively your laptop becomes your phone, becomes your laptop. I think we're starting to see huge movement in terms of usage and the way people are using things, and I would even dare to add, for some people, they probably don't even use a laptop anymore. It's all on the phone.
Absolutely.
Or iPad.
Absolutely.